everyone. Can you hear me? Yes, cool. And if at any point you cannot, let me know. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. We're excited to really discuss the role of accelerators in this entrepreneurial ecosystem. We have some awesome panelists for you. And I'm going to just have them start off by introducing themselves and really what their role is in this conversation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Barrica. I'm an entrepreneur in residence and venture partner at 500 Startups. 500 Startups is a global venture capital seed fund who invests all over the world and in Silicon Valley. We have 2 accelerators here in California, in San Francisco, and Mountain View. My background is I co-founded InDinero, which was a YC-backed accounting software 6 years ago, and which is also a 500 Startups company, and have been investing in people all over the world throughout my career as an investor at 500 Startups, as well as a pitch coach. So I have prepared over 400 founders for Demo Day in my time at 500 Startups, and have worked with most of the founders through the accelerator in the last 10 batches, or like 8 batches.
Hello, can you hear me? I can't hear me. No, I can hear me. Thanks you. My name is Fadi Bishara. I'm the founder of accelerator based here in Palo Alto called Blackbox. We focus on exclusively on helping founders from outside of Silicon Valley and outside of the US. We have immersive programs that we do here in Palo Alto and San Francisco that they're residential in nature. We bring founders from different countries. One of the key points that we do is each one of the participants come from a different country and they live together in a residential program for 2 weeks. And they get to learn some of the best practices and belief and just exposure to great role models that help them take some of this learning, make the connections, and go back to their home country and start more collaboration and partnerships with resources here in Silicon Valley. Some of our companies end up fundraising from here. To date, we've done the program 16 times. We're doing it in a couple of weeks, the 17th edition. We've had over 260 companies from 63 countries graduated. Less than 10% of the companies went out of business. More than 90% of them continue to grow. More than 60% fundraise, and we've had 9 exits. And we're very happy to see these examples happening in many countries globally. I'm originally from Syria, and I've lived here for 25 years now.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Austin. I'm from Austin, Texas. I'm a co-founder of a Austin-based accelerator program called DivInc. And DivInc is it's an accelerator that's focused on women and underrepresented minority founders. We actually just launched our first cohort in mid-September. We started with 9 companies. And our plan is to have 2 cohorts each year, one in the fall and one in the spring, each consisting of roughly 10 companies. We were actually going to start with 5 in this last one, but we got a little oversubscribed. We turned several companies away, but there was so much pent-up demand for what we're doing that we ended up with 9. And we're the only organization that's doing anything like this in Austin, and maybe even Texas. I'm not totally sure about that, but we're a nonprofit. And yeah, so we have it's a 12-week program, bring folks through, that do plenty of workshops, introduce them to mentors, other founders in the community, and really trying to address the lack of diversity in the tech startup ecosystem specifically. So that's about us.
Cool. Thank you, everyone, for the awesome introductions. Very grateful for the work that you're doing in this space. So my first question, anyone can answer. So, money is money, right? So what's the big deal about choosing a specific accelerator? And, for entrepreneurs of color who already feel like they're not getting access to capital, can entrepreneurs afford to be selective? So yeah, what's the deal with choosing the right type of money?
So It's my personal belief that the highest value of Accelerator is really not necessarily money. It's more of the emotional support of the entrepreneur. It's being a member of a community that is helping you go through this very stressful, emotionally stressful journey. And we're very cognizant about finding the diversity in nationalities and gender. We have more than 38% of our graduates that they're female founders as well. And then it's a complete, when you talk about support, it's not only a support from people who are just look like you and from your race and all of that. That's limiting. We all live in one world, and it's like the support that comes from a different perspective brings a lot more rich insight and different life experiences and different possibilities. It allows for things to look at a problem and see the opportunity in it versus being suckered into a stereotype that relate to, that maybe what led to that limitation.
Okay.
I think that people should be really wary of accelerators, honestly. I've traveled a lot around the world, and money is money, but like to plus one Fadi, it's about what you're really going to get out of an accelerator. 500 Startups is a growth-focused accelerator. Y Combinator plays a little earlier, right? You have to know kind of exactly what you want to get out of an accelerator because, if I'm a founder, if I'm giving 5% of my company away or 7% of my company away, I want to know exactly what I'm getting out of it. And you want to choose accelerators where you're going to be, where you're not, your background and your, especially if you're a minority or a woman. 500 Startups is also one of the most active investors in women and people of color, I think, around. We're one of the most active investors in the world, period. And it's definitely for the support of the network and fundraising, right? Like certain accelerators can't help you with that. And you need to be very clear about if you're joining an accelerator because you think they're going to help you raise money. Like I tell people who come to 500 Startups from other countries, like, look, you're not going to raise money in Silicon Valley. That's just not going to happen typically. I want to make those expectations super clear because some people, when not just like, when people come from the Midwest or like the South and they're like, I'm going to raise so much money in San Francisco. It's like, no, like it's really, really hard to raise money, especially if your customer base isn't like in the US, for example. So be really like, honestly, I tell most people like, don't just join an accelerator because of the money, right? Like this is a lot of like equity you're giving away typically, and be really clear about what you want to get out of it. If it is network, make sure the accelerator you're joining is like one of the ones that can offer that. And I think like Blackbox and DivInc, they're doing some really great things, but there are a ton of local accelerators that don't do any of this, and it's a waste of time. Right? So just be really clear that like not all accelerators are created equally. And a lot of founders that are great founders, I would say don't do 500 because it's not growth focused. Don't do YC if you need X or Y. Like every accelerator's got their own thing, so just know that. And don't assume that accelerator will mean that you can raise money. That's just not the case that we see.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in also to say that I mentioned earlier that we're nonprofit, so we have a slightly different model as far as accelerator programs go. We actually don't fund our companies, and we don't take equity, and we don't charge the founders either. And so it is cost neutral as far as our founders go. We are not in this to make money off the founders. We are in this completely to propel the change in the industry. And so that's what we're 100% focused on doing. And just to echo what Fadi and Andrea said, the reason that there was so much demand for this program was that our founders aren't necessarily looking for money right now. I mean, the premise upon which we founded this organization was a lot of these companies and these underrepresented founders are underrepresented because they don't have access to that network. They don't know who to turn to if they've got questions about how do I build, how do I do product development or whatever the case may be. What is intellectual property and how does that work? We try to provide that knowledge base. We try to provide the connections to folks in the ecosystem that can work with them hand in hand, can make introductions. And so for those that want to go out and raise money as a follow-on after leaving our program, they'll at least have those connections and those introductions to be able to do that. I mean, a lot of investors only invest in companies that that are introduced to them through their network. And so how do you even tap into that network? Well, that's one of the bridges that we are trying to close that gap. So.
No, I really love that. Lots of awesome just like takeaways, really being intentional about like it's actually more than money. So I really appreciated how you all covered that. So, we're at the Tech Inclusion Conference. So why is this group, like diverse founders, what's so important to you about this particular group, and why are they important to you? Why do you see them as valuable to this entrepreneurial ecosystem? So we'd just love to hear your thoughts around, why is this group important to you? What's the opportunity with women, underrepresented groups, international founders? So, yeah.
Sure. I'll kick it off so my background is I'm actually a corporate lawyer by background. And so I've worked with a lot of technology startup companies. I am a person of color, believe it or not, in the legal industry, particularly in the part of the legal industry where I am that works with a lot of venture capital firms and a lot of private equity firms and a lot of startup companies. I know what it's like to be that lone voice in the wilderness as well. So I personally have experienced that. And it's a problem that, I think we all are entrepreneurial by nature. And so when we see a problem that we can see a solution for, and we know that we're the people to go and affect that solution, we do it. We just jump on that. And so that's what compelled me to get involved with it. The statistics in the tech industry generally, and the tech startup ecosystem specifically, are abysmal, and there's liars, and there's damn statistics, but these statistics are true. And what also is true is that diverse companies do better in the marketplace, and so that's true as well. And so for me and for my co-founders, it's a no-brainer to go and try to untap that potential that's there.
So for me personally, as a queer female woman of color, I obviously know why I care about diverse founders in tech. But actually, when I talk about this with other VCs and stuff like that, it's important just to totally leave that behind, because they just don't care. I've had to pitch white dudes in khakis my whole career, and they just don't care, right? So what I tell people is, Dave McClure, who's the founding partner of 500 Startups, he always says this thing that kind of offends people sometimes, which is that women and minorities are underpriced assets. I love it. I actually think it's great because people aren't looking. Great example of this is 500 Startups was early in a company called Maven.
Ooh.
Has anyone heard about this company? Yeah, we were early in that company, and VCs hear that, they're like, black hair, what's that? And they just don't know. They don't know there's a butt ton of money to be made in these areas because they're white dudes in khakis. They don't know, right? So I really believe that when you go out there talking to why is diversity important, it's look, there's we have a fund that's starting with Monique Woodard. She was the former founder of Black Founders. She's starting a diversity fund with 500 Startups. There is this is the consuming power of the future. And if you don't have people in your fund who understand these markets, they're going to get left behind. That's how I do it. I obviously we can all talk about how all the problems in the world are getting solved. For example, I did YC, but my company was in YC back in 2011, and there were 5 laundry startups. And it's why? Why are all these laundry startups getting funded? It's because that's the worst thing in a young white dude's life out of Stanford. He's I hate doing my laundry, right? That's why. And that's what I didn't want to see anymore. And so there's a part of you that's just fuck tech. I'm gonna leave it, But I'm no, because then there's be more and more laundry startups that start because that's who's getting funded, right? So, anyways, that's it.
That was
Great.
Real,
Yeah, why participate? Why it's important? Tech inclusion. It's probably, there's 5 different ways why I could think of. If you just think economically and just common sense, as Andrea mentioned, is that could be one way of seeing it, as Dave says it. But it's also better products are built by different people. It is just there's nothing good that comes from purity of perspective and one gender, one angle of, this is as simple as that. Going all the way to the other extreme of me personally coming from Syria and having lived in wars, and when I was 15-year-old, my entire city was destroyed and lost 2/3 of my classmates. And I've seen the ugliness of violence, and I've seen why violence happened, and it's because the uneven distribution of economic opportunities, and it's because people are not being treated fairly. They don't have access to the possibility the next person may have, and it's just because of stupid reason. And I believe that that's something that we could affect globally. So inclusion to me is more of it's the richness. It's a possibility to create way better product as the world becoming more global. We're connected digitally now with anywhere else and on Earth in essence. And the more participant in the value creation, the more participant in the consumptions, they're going to be different people. The more colorful part of this is just better experience, and then allowing that to be accessible to people who have the talent and they're discriminated against because of their location or because of their colors, because of their sex, whatever it is. It's a shame, and it's there's something very satisfying to stand for that change. To feel like there's meaning in what we do.
I like that. No, I hope, was everyone taking notes around?
Well, I want to jump in there too. I mean, to a comment that Andrea made that a lot of the VCs don't care. And I don't make a habit of preaching to anyone, but they should care. 80% of venture capital firms don't return any money for their investors, and so if they're not looking for diverse founders and looking outside the box, they're not doing their damn job.
And just to put that, I've worked in a fund, and we have a very diverse fund. It's not that they don't care; it's that they don't know how to care, because it's just unconscious bias is real, right? You can't know and understand. So I think it's not accurate. Maybe my saying of they don't care. I'm just shocked always at how little that people realize that they don't understand because of their unconscious bias. And so a lot of people, they're like, we try, we see it, but they won't do the work to really bring in the diverse attitudes, right? A lot of VCs care, right? But you just don't see it represented in just the last talk before this, in that, Sequoia just brought on their first female partner. Okay, that's a good first step, but duh, so that's what I mean by don't care, is they're not making the efforts, I find, and
they don't know. They just don't know. They haven't experienced it, and that's really the difficult truth here is. The people who care, most people are here, obviously care about diversity and inclusion, and that's why you're here. That doesn't happen unless you have suffered as a result of, you've experienced pain that is connected to it. And there are many VCs who have just not experienced pain. They've had very clean life that that level of empathy, we cannot blame them for that. I think it's an opportunity. Yeah. It's the unfortunate things that we become more empathetic when we suffer. And that's.
And the best way to win is the best way to actually do something about inclusion. And this is I'm leaving 500 startups to go back and to be a founder, because the best way to do something is just to win and make just a butt ton of money, because I'm tired of trying to be no, someone's gonna make money. I'm no, one of us just has to make $1 billion, and then suddenly everybody else will just start investing in it. But there's not that, there's the pattern, right? VCs aren't that smart. They're just trying to recognize patterns, right? And right now there just isn't that that click. And so what I tell everyone is I want to do more and contribute more just by going out there and making money. We just have to go out there and because so many of us are trying to do a lot of good in the world, but at the end of the day, venture capitalists, the only moral imperative is to bring capital back to their investors. That was a hard one for me to learn in a fund, because I want to do good in the world, but they're not charities. It's their moral imperative to bring a ton of return back. And that's, I think, what we all experience when we talk to people, is they love diversity in the concept, but at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is bringing a ton of return back to their initial investors.
That was good. Okay, I was like.
Well, just to clarify, when I say they should care, I don't mean from necessarily doing a good public service caring, and I don't know if that's what came across. They should care because they should be trying to untap, like you said, that underpriced asset that's out there. There's sort of the sector that exists. And then if we can unlock that and bring in diverse founders and diverse companies, I mean, there's going to be the tech sector that can exist. And so it's that bigger, broader economy that they can tap into. I mean, there's an incredible opportunity there, I think. So, you know, there are so many products and so many services that people just haven't imagined yet. Well, who's going to imagine those products and services? Certainly folks that are part of the demographic that kind of tend to be the ones that are founded now, and then a lot of them are going to be the ones that are kind of on the outside right now. So,
agreed. Thank you. And I definitely feel like there's a call to action even for us, like whether it is going out there to create, if you do have investor friends, like make sure you're sharing about different market opportunities. But yeah, I think it's definitely imperative for folks to seek to learn a little more. So my other question is around, I think some of the trends you've started to observe in terms of the people that have been the most, successful going through accelerators, the folks that you've seen crash and burn after their experience with an accelerator. I think what are some of the things for people to really be cognizant of and really be mindful of? I know you touched on some of them, being focused around like, what are you trying to get out of it? But I think if you all could maybe highlight, I think some of the trends that you've observed of success and also failure.
I think the trends that I've seen in 25 years in help building teams for startups and recently with Blackbox launch, the successful founder have always had some kind of an emotional connection to the product, the service, the problem that they wanted to solve. And it's not necessarily about what's trends in the industry or what's going on in there. And it's their attachment to certain problem that they believe that they know enough about that they wanted to change. They want to see a different solution. They want to see better service. They see something broken that means something to them more than the other person. So it's not about, it could be very crowded space. It could be the same other problem, but from the place that they're coming at it from, and it's usually not money. And the drive for those successful product that they end up really winning and building great companies. Money is important, but it's not the driving factor. They're not building the company because they want to become the richest person or the most profitable company. So that's when I mean, was that the question? I don't know if I heard.
Yeah, you answered my question. Okay. Anyone? It's all good. Okay, so my other question is around like, one of the things I share with my friends is that like privilege affords you access to different like knowledge networks, right? So knowing how things work. So for like first-time founders, how do they understand what they're getting into, whether it's financially, what were some of the resources that, maybe you as past founders have suggested people look into? Because founders are founders. They're problem solvers. Not all of them were like finance majors. So I think what are some of the tools and resources that you suggest people look into to get an understanding of from your vantage point? You want to start or?
So interestingly, in terms of access to knowledge networks, I think there's the fundraising networks, right? Like most people talk about a family friends round. My first company, I was like, my friends and family asked me for money, so don't think there's going to be any sort of 20K family friends round happening. Like, it's not accessible to me, so there's that. Actually, though, what I tell first-time founders is don't be a first-time founder yet. Go work for somebody. Actually, that's what I tell people, because I have the career I had because my freshman roommate in college, Jessica Ma, called me. I was supposed to move to China to be a linguist, and she's like, Andrea, I just got into Y Combinator. And I'm like, what's that? I didn't know. And I worked with her for 3.5 years, and she had all the network. She had everything. And like my companies after that, people were like, oh, it was so great of you, but I didn't do that on my own. So when someone actually has a dream, I say find the best funded, smartest founder, go work for them. Not even that long, and like get their network, because the real answer if you're a first-time founder, it's going to be really hard to fundraise. So either you have to be cash generating from day one and just kill it and show traction, traction because a VC, and I was a venture partner. I'm a diverse venture partner, but even I don't fund first-time founders who don't have funding because it's too risky, right? So you got to de-risk that in some way. And so for me, I either say go work for the smartest founder who has the network, and and this is the thing, you get to learn and get a paycheck. Because the whole fail fast thing, if you're a minority founder, you can't, right? We don't have safety nets. If I fail fast, that's all my savings. I got to move in with my mom, it's not the same thing. And so I actually don't tell minority founders to fail fast because they're giving all their savings to these startups, and you're going to burn through a few ideas, right? Like I've had 6 ideas, 4 of them failed. One of them was in dinero, which was good, but I've had a lot of ideas fail. So don't go into startups where you can't fail. Just real talk right now. I actually tell a lot of people, you're not probably ready to be a first-time founder. If you need to raise a lot of money and you're a first-time founder, it's going to be really difficult if you don't have that in a network. That's my advice.
Yeah, I'd add to that just question, you really ask yourself why. Why are you going to start the startups? Don't start because entrepreneur is sexy or whatever, this crap. That's the pain and the challenges of being a founder is way bigger than anything else. So just really question, is it really something important that there's a reason that you wanted to do this? You want to launch a startup, you want to found a company. And when you do, identify if this is really a problem in general you want to solve, you want to build an education problem, you want to do something that has to do with commerce or whatever it is that you think you can add value to. A great way to do it is just join another company. Go work for one of the best startup maybe in that place for a year or two, and then just position yourself as, don't think there is time window for the for the idea. It's never about the idea. Your idea gets richer and deeper with more experience. You can always create a better solution from whatever you think you want to start with now, by diving in and understanding as much as you can about that space. What is the current solution? What are the current ways of people dealing with it? So just question why do you want to be a founder? Because it's not easy, and failing fast has gone way out of way out of line, become a purpose. No one should fail fast. No one should fail. Failing sometimes inevitable, but it's not a goal and it's not a process for building a business. I'm gonna be misquoted on this.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a slightly contrarian view, which is get going. It's I think you have to strike the right balance between getting the right experience and acquiring the right mentors and advisors, but at a certain point you just kind of got to get out there and start going and doing, and and you don't want to fail. You're going to take your nicks and bumps along the way, but have the grit to keep going and have the grit to keep plugging away and try not to fail and try to have that survival instinct. But particularly with young potential founders, folks that are maybe college age, you really don't have a lot of opportunity costs, right? I kind of preach to my nieces and nephews now to, if they've got an idea, to go with it, because, you don't have a mortgage, you don't have a spouse, you don't have any children, you can either do that or go travel or something. If you're at that phase of your life where you can afford to stay in youth hostels around the world, just get out and go and start that company if you have the inkling to do it. But I would say it's important to go and seek out those mentors and seek out the people that can offer you advice. It's important to get going, but it's important also to do so cautiously. And so, I see this particularly as an attorney that works with a lot of startups. Founders are great because they kind of have this ready, fire, aim mentality, and they get things done. But you have to be careful about how you do certain things, because you don't want to start planting little seeds of things that are going to be harder to go back and fix and clean up later. It's like, the analogy that maybe I like to use is it's like you build your product on really crappy code just because you're in such a rush to get it out there. you start layering on top of that code, it becomes a lot more expensive and a lot more headaches and a lot more heartache trying to go back and fix it. So, I think there's I'd say just get going and get out there.
Okay. So I definitely want to give ample time for the audience if folks have questions. Does anyone? Let's see. How do we get you? Yeah.
Oh, I'm coming.
You have a mic?
Hi, thank you for your time. Is anyone talking about or any conversation around this topic? Because I haven't really been hearing it here, and that is the triple unicorn. Latina, female, middle-aged, startup founder. And if so, what are your thoughts? I'm currently looking for seed stage funding. I'm in private beta. Where would I go? Who would I talk to that's someone specifically interested in supporting our focus?
Many of the early stage firms you should be looking at, if you haven't launched, 500 would not probably be the best first fit. We're a growth-focused accelerator, so going to the other ones, I think the real question, and we touched on this before, not all businesses need VC funding, right? And that's a really important one. Some people go to VC because they want validation, but that's not what VC is. VC is this can be a $1 billion company.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Now, if you believe that, then you should go to all of the tech accelerators and go that. But I think it's being able to answer that question and storytelling. So my role at 500 Startups was the pitch coach and storytelling help. So a lot of people, I ask them how can this? So if you can answer that question, you're ready. If you're not ready, then it's maybe not the best time. But I would, Women's Startup Lab. Arie wasn't able to be here. Would be someone that I would go after. There's tons of I don't know if it's a program you're going after, but there's a lot of organizations now. And being middle-aged, I want to say this, 500 Startups is very pro founders who have had careers, right? The average age of our batches of definitely we have people from different backgrounds. So for sure 500, that would not be an issue. It's more is this at the traction level and the growth level that's ready? That would be what would prohibit us, not any of those other things. But yeah.
So you say triple unicorn? So I'd look at those, and this is what you're gonna look at, what you may think as a bug and find it to be a feature. So being middle-aged, that means you probably have been in the workforce or you have certain experience, and hopefully you're starting your company in a domain of something that you already know a lot about. You have more years of knowledge than the recent graduates. So why not, in that case, think exactly of that? If you really want to do it for the purpose of you're confident in, you understand this domain, and you think you could solve it, and you think you could launch startup to do it, start it as a service. Become the expert, the consultant, bootstrap it, build. It doesn't have to be this notion of a startup and an investor is. These two have been coupled too closely that they don't need to be. Not every company, as Andrea said, needs to be that way. And investors been saying this very clearly, especially in Silicon Valley. If they don't see you as a 1000x return or more, they don't want to invest. Why do you want to be? I don't know. I don't have an energy to build 1000x for anybody right now. Or it's hell. Right? But if I could build great value, if I know if it hits as many, and who knows, sometimes when you turn your eye off of that, the right thing will happen and the right investor may come. So just look at it. Don't focus on being a woman and being middle-aged and being a founder for the first time. Look at it as I've worked in this industry, I know my shit, and I'm gonna do this. And I don't have to solve this big problem in a big way, but I'm gonna start chopping at it. Figure out some advice of what are the areas you need to know about getting started. Not an accelerator is what I would think. It necessarily might be. Yet again, it could be also a scalable idea, and an accelerator probably who focus on people like that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Bootstrap it. bootstrap it and build a business, build a lifestyle, probably better and easier.
So we have
No
another
investors.
You have a question over there?
Yeah, good advice. My question's for Dan, but maybe the rest of you have thoughts about this as well. So I actually run a couple of programs that are similar to what you do in Austin, except in Portland, Oregon, which is basically kind of more of a pre-accelerator program, really using that as a catalyst to kind of transform the ecosystem. And so it's been interesting. I've done it for a couple of years. And I think one thing that we kind of always struggle with is really, while we're trying to build the infrastructure around it, right? So the mentorship, everything from the mentorship to everything that you need for that community. But I still struggle with having diverse mentors and making sure that you're making those referrals in a way that works for the founder. And I'm just curious if you have any thoughts about that.
I do. We've definitely made a push to make sure that our mentors are a diverse group of individuals. We just, our mentors come in all stripes. We've been lucky. I mean, we've had, like I mentioned earlier, there was kind of a pent-up demand in Austin because nobody else was doing it, and there were just a lot of people that came out of the woodworks and said, this is great what you're doing. We really want to help. I'm just trying to think about ways that you can tap into, if that groundswell isn't already there. I kind of have to think about that a little bit. I'm going to stew about it, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
I will say, so having one of my past organizations I worked with was Code 2040, and we had to really cultivate networks. I would say make your mentors other ambassadors for you. Also, the diverse mentors might not come from the other diverse mentors. Non-folks of color have friends that are folks of color. So enlist them, ask them, do you know any women that might be great to help out on this program? So really putting it out there that this is a commitment that we have to support our entrepreneurs in the most effective and efficient way. So really having the people within your organization be mouthpieces around help us, we want to help this organization grow and scale. So definitely not being afraid to ask for help or not being afraid to just say, hey, we want to make this a priority, getting more women here, getting more folks of color here to support our entrepreneurs. So I would look at that also in that regard. Hopefully that was kind of helpful. I think we might have time for one or two questions.
I wanted to jump on just now that I've thought about it a little bit too. I mean, this diversity problem is these accelerator programs and what we're doing, it's one facet of a multifaceted approach, right? And so there are a lot of other organizations that are out there that are doing wonderful things. Women Who Code. In Austin, we have Women at Austin. There are, to the extent that you can tap into these organizations and sort of cross-pollinate, I think that would be extremely helpful.
My question is for Andrea. It's more a curiosity. You said that you're going to leave 500 startups. And so what's next? What you're going to build? You were looking so excited.
Come see me after.
Cool.
Please, I'd love to tell you about, actually, all of you, come see me after. It's awesome. It's super controversial, and it's a little stealth. So it's in women's sexual wellness. I'll say that. So come see me.
Hi, my name is Doris. I'm from Honduras, and it's really cool to see all these people actually doing something for international. I just want to know, since we come from outside, and I've been here for a year or so, how to get mentors, right? Because you're creating your startup, and you're just overwhelmed, oh, I need to get money, then I get to focus on my customers, then I got to talk to my co-founder. So you need a mentor to just hey, focus, or what? How to get that, especially if you are coming from outside and you're building that network right now. What is the fastest way,
Yeah, very good question. It's a very tough question to answer simply. I would say my best answer would be start with whomever you may know as a business person that you respect, that you think that they're good at whatever they're doing, and hit their limit. Whatever it is, they may be able to help you, and maybe your uncle who is a lawyer. And that's probably ask, and then when you start asking your uncle who is a lawyer about some product problem, he may say, I don't know how this might work. And then who do you think might know? So Like you may have to zigzag your way through, but zigzag it through trusted people that you respect, and they're good in one area. So you don't have to have the perfect mentor from the beginning that you start, but you may find that perfect mentor after like a couple of bounds, and someone who's you may be 2 degrees removed from exactly who you need, but you have to start with the first person that you think.
Great advice. One last thing. Don't say, "Will you mentor me?"
Right.
Like, ask the most specific question as possible. I will only mentor people who say, Andrea, I am launching this product. I have this exact pricing question. Can we talk on the phone for 15 minutes so you can like tell me what pricing to go with? I will say yes to that. But if I get an email that's like, will you mentor me? It's like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't even know what, but like, so be like pinpoint, like, hey, I saw you built this and pivoted. I have a pivot. Can I have 15 minutes of your time to talk about that? Good.
Well, definitely have to wrap up, but hopefully this was valuable to everyone. Our Twitter handles, where we're at, is on the screen. Be sure to keep in contact with us. Also, check in with Andrea around her startup. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful to everyone. We're excited to see what you build, what you create, the communities you cultivate. But thank you for hanging out with us today.
Give them a big applause. Thanks to Bianca, Andrea, Dan, and Fadi. Thank you so much for participating in the conference.